Hi everyone, this is Korosh Erfani and today is Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. We are going to talk about the 12th day of the war of Israel and the United States against Iran. And I am developing a hypothesis according to which there is no more control of the war by the United States. So which means that now the war is out of control, at least out of control of Trump, and as opposed to what he was thinking about himself and the mighty force of the United States as the only element, as the only factor of this equation. I am going to try to show that it's not the case, that there are many other factors that start to become more and more important to determine if there would be any end to this war or not. So the general context in which I would like to establish my hypothesis is that the United States has been dragged into this war by Israel. So that's why it didn't have really the preparation that's necessary for a long-term war. Trump believed that it's a matter of an operation. That's why he's using a lot of different words, operation, excursion, the things like that. But he doesn't want to talk about war. But we are in one, right? We are in a war and nothing else. So as there was not really preparedness at the scale of a, let's say, midterm war, let alone the long-term war, all the preparations that were convenient, fit to a short-term war, are now almost finished and exhausted, and the United States is facing the reality that this war cannot be ended very soon, despite the wishful thinking that had been formulated by Trump, by Peter Hegseth and other people around Trump. But we know that this is just wishful thinking, and the reality is something else. So one of the reasons for which they think that we are getting close to the end is the numbers that they are presenting as the damages and casualties for the Iranian part, right? And they are telling us that for the missiles, there is missiles are done for 90% missile launch, and drones launch done for 85%. No Navy, no Air Force, nothing and nothing. All right. But as we know that Trump and his administration don't have any attachment to reality, right, and to facts, it's good to verify, to check, okay? And that's why I try to do it. And I found a very interesting source that did it for us. Here you have a very technical approach by Policy Tensor, which is talking about why the US is facing strategic defeat. So this guy, in order to present us what is going on, he didn't develop a political, ideological thesis, right? He tried to go through a very technical mathematical model under the title of Iran Drone War Model, and he is trying to calculate a formula with several factors. Among these factors is initial drone inventory of Iran, total factory slots, which means operational plus destroyed, and drones produced per factory per month in the different factories across Iran, fraction of factories destroyed per month, okay, fraction of destroyed factories repaired per month, right, and finally desired firing rate, which means how many drones per month. So this calculation is just for drones, Iranian drones, and not Iranian missiles. Okay, so there are many calculations, as you can see, with different perspective, different probabilities, right? Low, medium, high. And let me tell you the main outcome that's interesting for our discussion. At the end of the day, in the conclusion, we can see that despite all the numbers that had been advanced by Trump administration and Trump himself, we can expect that Iran continues to launch the drones at a high rate fire for at least 4 months. So we are talking about 120 days, and right now we are just at 1/10 of this scope of time, 12 days. So Trump is talking about getting very close to the end, very complete, very successful, and so on and so on. Just after, 1/10 of the scope of time in which Iran will have the capability of launching drones at high rate, according to this calculation, at high rate. One of the reasons we can see the discrepancy between what this factual calculation is telling us and the ambiguous, no fact checked of Trump administration, this discrepancy, this distance, huge distance, is coming from the fact that the real number of the drones that had been done by Trump administration, by American army in the region, is, according to what he is saying here, something between 35 to 50%. So Trump is talking about 80 or 85%, and here the calculations are showing us, it had been checked also by some technical resources, and it looks like that it would be marked on by 35 to 50%. So a huge gap, right? Between this number and the one presented by Trump, by the Hexet, by the Speaker of the White House. So we cannot really rely on what they are telling us. All right. If it's the case, we can be sure that something is wrong here, which is that the Americans had a misconception of the military capability of the Iranian side, right? And I think based on the misinformation, provided by Israelis, because Israelis wanted absolutely the Americans in this war, so that's why they produced false information, fake information, and anything else, in order to misguide and mislead Americans. And it's done. It's over. Now the Americans are entrapped by Israelis in at least midterm war, and we are talking for the midterm, we are talking about 1, 2, 3 months, or long term, beyond 3-4 months, till we don't know. All right, why so? What had been so miscalculated? This is where this analysis is very interesting. Is talking about something that goes back to 1990s, at that time. A military analyst, Kerpenvich, a guy called Kerpenvich, predicted that in the early 1990s that we are going toward a new configuration in which there is something very different from what we have had before. And I quote it: an international military order. This is what we were supposed to get very soon after 90s. An international military order where standoff precision strike capabilities have diffused far beyond the technologically advanced great powers, which means that we are going to a period of time where some countries that are not very advanced for the technology, let's say, right, technologically advanced, like the United States, the European countries, China, and so on, would be able at least to get this capability of precision strike. Okay? So this is something that was usually in the monopoly of the countries with an advanced technology. It was not the case. The Iranians were not supposed to have that. And don't forget that one part of this miscalculation is because they had a very disformed and unrealistic image of what was going on in Iran. Right? They thought that the religious government, an ideological terrorist government, all these Zionist propaganda around Iran cannot leave them having something like this, the precision strike capabilities. But now it's very late, or it's too late to realize that no, it's the case. Why? So the article explained it very well. It says that look at what happened to all the radars and the bases of the United States in the region. And he's talking about the TOW technology, the TOW batteries that are supposed to be the best defense system. So he said that if anything must not be really vulnerable in front of the missiles attack or drone attacks are the TOW. And can you imagine that Iran destroyed completely all the 5 TOW defense system of the United States in the region? All 5 of them. Why? Because when you have this precision strike possibility, you can target exactly what you want and strike it as you want. And we are talking about a very short distance, right, for the southern part of the Iranian territory and the northern part of the Arab Persian Gulf countries. All of them wiped out, completely out of service, out of order right now. So what are the consequences? The consequences is that now, because all the bases are completely either destroyed, either abandoned in some cases, they are not anyway functional. And that's why the United States cannot do any fly sorties from these bases. Can you imagine? I told you in the previous video that some estimations are talking about $1 trillion of investment of the United States during half a century, 50 years in the region in order to establish itself as the mighty power over there, protecting all the Arab countries, the allies, the boss, Israel, and everything. And now suddenly In how many days? Oh, 5 days. In 5 days, 50 years and $1 trillion, removed, completely vanished. Unbelievable. What's the result? The result is they cannot really use these bases for the fly sorties, and that's why when they want to operate upon Iran, they have now they have to use only and only their aircraft carriers, which are very far. And the number of fly sorties that they can do from these aircraft carriers is just dozens per day compared to hundreds from the bases. And of course, it needs a lot of more logistic, fuel, and etc. So that's why the United States is bringing the third aircraft carriers, into the region, the Gerald Ford. So can you imagine the first military force in the world, the first army in the world comes to destroy, a little mullah country, Islamic terrorist, ideological, blah, blah, and suddenly it's realized that, well, it's not the case, because they have something that they are not supposed to have. And not only that, not only it's a matter of the precision strike capabilities, but also, can you imagine the Iranians right now have something as missiles with a technology that the United States doesn't have, or doesn't have at that level, at that scope. Hypersonic. The Iranians are among a few countries in the world able to produce, not to import, not to buy, right? Like all the Arab countries in the Persian Gulf, but to produce, to fabricate the hypersonic missiles. And with these hypersonics, on the one hand, and on the other hand, without having all these defense system, now they are able to target anything. They can strike almost anything in the region, including the core of Tel Aviv. Can you imagine that one missiles launching from Iranian territory to get to Israel must pass something like between 20 to 25 different impediments, defense system or anything. The British Air Force, American Air Force, Jordanian Air Force, all the systems, radars, and then in Israel, the famous Iron Domes with the layers, and finally get to the target this missile sent from Iran. And now, because of the military censorship, we don't have the exact information about what's happening in the Haifa, Tel Aviv, but we know that there are huge cases of destruction and casualties. So, the miscalculations start to come up, to reveal, and to be a serious problem for President Trump and his army, right? The American army. Let's see the case of the Strait of Hormuz, which is the main topic from yesterday to today. We know that the Iranians shut completely the Strait of Hormuz, right? Now there is no really any kind of ship that can really go there, pass from this strait. So we know the consequences. We have an idea about the consequences because already it's a matter of billions and billions of dollars as economic loss for the region, for the region's countries, and of course globally. We are going to talk about that. But now the American economy start to be under pressure with regard to this lack of 20-25% of the global energy market, and must do something. So that's why Trump is threatening the Iranian side to be struck, to be hit 20 times more if Iran continues to, keep the Strait of Hormuz shut. But the question is why the Iranians must not do so. Why they have to back to normal after having something like 5,000 different points, 5,000 facilities bombed, after having several thousands of people killed or injured, after having lost, we don't know, several, maybe dozen or hundreds of billions of damages, what they have to lose now in order to accept any proposal that cannot be consequential, long-term, strategic, and guaranteed, for the Iranian side. Why they have to accept it? There is no reason. That's why there won't be such a thing. There won't be any chance to, escape this nightmare for the Americans, which is the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. If there would be any chance, it must be acceptable, satisfying the Iranian side, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So this is where the things start to become really complicated. Why? Because the United States acted in such a way that the Iranian part now doesn't have any trust in Americans in general, we can say, by and large. And on the other hand, they don't want really to leave the Americans go away, okay? Because they know that the Americans are controlled completely by Israel, and Israel has an existential problem with Iran. It's not a matter of 12 days, 10 days, 20 days. No, that's an existential threat. Israel is an existential threat for Iran and vice versa. So they cannot beat each other. I don't think that there would be a formula in which we have a peaceful coexistence between Iran and Israel. Not because Iran doesn't want that, because Israel is now in the hands of those who want to put an end to anything. Don't forget that those who are in power in Israel are now, according to themselves, according to their ideological beliefs and religious creeds, they are preparing the conditions to have the Armageddon. And the Armageddon is the last war where the whole world will be set in fire, so that God or the God's representative comes on earth in order to save the Jews. This is what they think, and they are acting according to this because they know that such a thing, that you are now the most hated country in the world, right? Among the 8 billion people on the earth, there are 9 billion that hate you, right? Because you are criminal, you are genocidal, because you are liar, because you are warmonger. So the people don't want you. The whole global population really doesn't want you. So they know that. They know because they know what they did in order to get to that status, seen in this way. So that's why they don't have any choice. They cannot walk back. They cannot walk back. They cannot walk away. The only thing that they can do is just keep everything, continuing on the round in order to create such a condition that Armageddon is done and God comes here to save them. So with such a thing, when the people, the serious people like Mersheimer are talking about the absurd aspect of this, right? Why we have to think that there would be anything that can be called peace, coexistence, Abrahamic Accord, or something where Israel is able to live with Palestinians, Lebanese, Syrian, Iranian. No, it's just fantasy. I don't think so. No realist person on earth can believe in such a thing. You can listen to Professor Mersheimer, Jeffrey Sachs, or other people. They are all telling us that now there is an existential problem for the whole humanity because of Israel. So there is one problem, one serious problem for the whole humanity that's called Israel, the Zionist Israel. But we are talking here about the quagmire in which the United States is entrapped by Israel. We are talking about a real pickle, right? And the Americans have to face the music because they entered in the trap of the Israelis, and now the Iranian cannot really leave them get away. We saw that mistakes and errors and wrongdoings started to, add up one after another since the first day of this war. For example, they eliminated Ali Khamenei. Ali Khamenei was the Iranian Islamic Republic's supreme leader, right? And he was more or less a moderate leader, someone who tried to keep Iran strong according to himself, even though we cannot be in agreement with this idea, but he tried to do so, and at the same time he tried to avoid confront the whole region, Israel, the United States, and so on. So every time there was a serious situation, Khamenei was trying to get around. That's why he was okay with the negotiation for the nuclear issue with the JCPOA, in 2015 and so on. So we can consider him as kind of moderate. So look at how intelligent you are. You come to eliminate a moderate leader without having any alternative, without having any plan for how to replace him with someone even more moderate, pro-Western, pro-American or something. You don't have any idea. You don't have any Chalabi like in Iraq. And what you do is just to create a condition in which there is now his son much more radical than his father who replaced him. Okay? So this guy is someone very close to the IRGC, and essentially the core of the IRGC, like the guardian of the revolutionary guardian, and they are very radical, right? So that's why this link between Mojtaba Khamenei and this core of the guardian of revolution now creates really a central part of the Iranian leadership that is much more radical than Khamenei and his commandment over the IRGC. What this radicalism can mean? This radicalism will be translated into the avoidance of any short-term war with the United States, which means we are going to go with a prolonged war, not because of the United States anymore, maybe even not desired by Israel. I am going to explain that Israel, at the end of the day, prefers a long-term, complete destruction of Iran, compared to just the short-term adventure of the United States. But we are talking about the Americans on the one hand and the Iranians on the other hand. Here you can see that the Iranians are not eager at all to have a short-term war. Why? Because a short-term means nothing, but absolutely nothing as advantage for the Iranians. All right? So that's why they are ready to radicalize, to intensify, to escalate the war. How they can do that? So first, all the alternatives that Americans counted on in order to put more and more pressure on the Iranian regime, not directly by mobilizing themselves, right, the American forces, but others, failed. We saw how aggressively Israelis and Americans tried to bring in the Kurds, the Kurdish Iranian organizations, political organization, into the war, and they failed. They completely and lamentably failed. Why? Because first of all, the Iranian Kurds started to show a kind of mistrust to the Americans, based on the basis of what happened in Syria, in Turkey. So that's why they don't really trust. And on the other hand, the Iraqi government didn't want really to have his country a new field of battle, right? So that's why right now the Iraqi army is present in the Iran-Iraq borders in Kurdistan in order to avoid completely any possibility for the Kurdish to penetrate into the Iranian territory. So that it didn't work. Israel tried to bring in the Republic of Azerbaijan into this war, but we saw that with just one drone, one strike, Iran gave a serious warning to a country that whose whole existence depends on the oil exportation. So if there is no oil export, it means that there is no Republic of Azerbaijan. So that's why they said that no, we don't do anything. And even right now, the Republic of Azerbaijan is sending helps, to the different parts of the damaged facilities in Iran, in order to show that no, not only we are not in with your enemies, but we are with you, we are helping you. Same thing for Turkey. Israel couldn't really bring in and make Turkey involved in this war. So we don't see really any successful achievement by Israelis and the United States in order to broaden this war and putting more and more pressure in order to use up, the Iranian resources. So that's why right now Iranians are doing a lot of things. Let's say, first, they are launching drones and missiles upon Israel, and just tonight, after all this propaganda regarding 90% missile down, 85% drones down, they sent during 3 hours several waves of destructive with 1 ton, 1,000 kilo explosive missiles over Israel, and also they hit several countries in the region, including Bahrain, Kuwait, again, which means that we are here. Not only that, Iran somehow announced that it can start to mine in the Strait of Hormuz, and we explain it in our previous videos that the mines, several hundreds or thousands mines in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz means the closure of that region for weeks or months is done. It's impossible. But don't forget, according to this calculation that I showed you, we are talking about something like at least 4 months of possibility for high rate fire of drones by Iranian side, which means that from now to 4 months later, every ship that dares to pass effectively the Strait of Hormuz can be targeted by an Iranian drone, and something like the drone Shahid, with a very destructive capability and very little chance to be detected by radars or whatsoever, right? So we can see that the deadlock for the Americans start really to emerge, right? What is coming about in the region is really a nightmare for the Americans. Let me tell you the huge consequences, negative consequences, disastrous almost, that can have this story of closing Strait of Hormuz and keep it shut. First, we know that the global inflation shock is already there. The prices of almost everything, but essentially those goods that were related directly with the oil or petrochemical products started to rise considerably. We can see the nightmare of the global financial markets with several trillion dollars loss already, right? For 1 week, we were talking about $6 trillion, and beyond that, of course, at the end of the second week, most probably it would be more than double, right? More than double. And the third one, many analysts are talking about a coming food crisis. Food crisis because in order to have farming agriculture across the world, I am talking about in the global agricultural production, they need fertilizers, right? And if there is no such a thing, we are going to have very soon, for the next crop, in a few months, some are talking about 50% of decrease. 50%, a half. Can you imagine that the global food production will be in half? Unimaginable. Which means that we are going to have a huge increase of the food prices across the board. Talking about the financial situation, let me tell you something about a disaster, a real financial disaster that is looming for the United States. There are more and more news according to which four Arab countries of the Persian Gulf, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, UAE, Kuwait, and Qatar, they started quietly, very quietly, but surely they are doing so. They are reviewing every financial agreement that they had or they have with Washington. We are talking about something, according to Financial Times and reported by Reuters, we are talking about something like $2 trillion US dollars of investment in the United States. Here, $2 trillion. So we can see that they have a huge amount of treasury bonds, the stocks, real estate, and everything. And Financial Times is telling us that finally these four countries, because of the situation in the region, the famous Israeli war against Iran, with the participation of its slave, the United States, now will cost, just by these four countries, something maybe like $2 trillion of investment fleeing the United States. These four countries are able to vacuum $2,000 billion from the American economy. And they are talking about, they are examining the idea of force majeure, which will justify effectively to put an end to their agreements so that there is no the breach of contract to be sued or something. And once it's done, of course, they will draw their money out completely back. Why? Because they need. They are not making money anymore since February 28th, right? Nothing. And they are paying a huge amount of damages and loss, and they need these $2 trillion. So which means that just by this case, and I can talk about the case of Japan, the European companies, and so on and so on, the American economy will be hugely shrunk in a few months, in a few weeks even. Can you imagine that all the pledged and promises of billions and billions of investment by these Arab countries in the United States are gone, are now just a joke, Why? Because they saw that their countries are getting bombed, they're targeted by the Iranians, used by the Americans, and all of these for the benefit of Israel, for the benefit of Zionists over there. So they are not stupid. They are losing everything. They are going to spend a lot of money to repair their old infrastructure once the war is ended, and we don't know when. So this is how the system, the American system, is now in a quagmire, is entrapped by the Israelis, by the Israeli war, and the Americans are going to pay a huge cost for that, for the Israelis. So let me very clear about that. We are on the brink of a global recession. This is what is going to happen to the Americans. And can you imagine that at the same time that the American economy is going toward a kind of collapse, I don't know, is going to fall apart, most probably in the coming months. The Chinese started to, the famous yearly the Communist Party Congress, and they approved a new 5-year plan, for the 5 coming years. A document of 141 page. And believe me or not, in this new document, the perspective, the different perspectives that the document is drawing, for the future, for the 5 coming years, are unbelievable. We can see that while the United States is spending billions and billions of dollars for destruction, for war, and becoming the least trustable, the least reliable country in the world beside Israel, China is getting to a new level of advanced technology and a complexity of the system that cannot be competed anymore if it's realized, because there are different steps, 2027, 2030. So it's a matter of what? It's a matter of a combination between capital, industry, research, infrastructure, and all of these around one single technological trajectory, which is the artificial intelligence and its applications in all of this. Which means we are talking about the AI, robotics, quantum computation, quantum networks, and of course the material processing. And imagine that in this document they are talking about reducing the export of the rare materials to the United States to the minimum, to the absolute minimum, which means that everything that is getting used right now in this useless war for the F-35, for the rockets, for TOWs and so on, won't have any raw materials to make the chips and to replace it, to reproduce that, to refabricate them. So which means that there would be a huge gap, in the military arsenal, for the advanced part of the military arsenal of the United States in the coming years. This is how it works. This is when you keep your country, out of the total dominance of the Zionists, like China, and when you give your country, because of the Epstein file, because of all the nefarious cases of Trump and the company, you prepare your country to go down, to collapse, to fall apart, to break down completely. This is what is going to happen to the United States. Because this war, for sure, will be at a huge cost. And let me tell you, beyond the economic, financial part, there would be impoverishment of the American society. The middle class will be hit badly here, crumbling. Believe me, the middle class will falls to pieces if all these projections and hypotheses come to happen, right? We are going to have the presidency of Donald Trump finished, over, we can say. I consider the presidency of Donald Trump as a dead walking. There won't be anything that we can consider as the second term in a complete way, in a complete scope of 4 years. Unimaginable. Trump will have to face music and pay an extremely high price for this stupid war that he waged for the Zionists in order to get out of the consequences of the Epstein file. You will see. Not only Trump, but the GOP. The Republicans will pay also a high price because in both House and Senate, right? They voted against the restriction of the Trump's authority to wage this war, to expand this war, and they are giving $500 billion more in order to, to get ahead for the war that is desired and planned by Israel. Can you imagine that? So the GOP will be done for generation, right? So, in conclusion, let me explain what is happening. When, when you don't have a real strategy, and you start something that needs substantially, right, inherently, a strategy, right, because it's not, a simple undertaking. It's a huge, colossal action when you decide to attack, against a country that is, almost the equivalent of the superficie of the Western Europe, right? With 93 million people, a nation that is that has shown in its history that it never surrenders. It never gives up its territory, its existential elements, territorial integrity, national unity, to any kind of foreign enemy. So that's a misconception, that's miscalculation, that's a huge historic mistake. The short term was the idea. The long term is the reality. And the discrepancy between these two is the quagmire in which the United States will be, sinking for the coming weeks, months, and let me tell you, based on the, with reference to what happened for Iraq, for Afghanistan, you remember that war brought about the famous crisis of 2007-2008, right? Though that crisis was the direct result of these two wars, which means two miscalculations, one about Afghanistan, another about Iraq, led to the crisis of 2007-2008. So when we compare the scope of those operations, those military operations, let's say those two wars, with what is happening right now, even though Trump tries to have a rhetoric of dominating everything, controlling everything, having everything under control, for the short-term excursion, but it doesn't work like that. The war is determined always and always on the battlefield, not on the paper, not on the table of the commanders or generals. Is the battlefield. The battlefield is Strait of Hormuz. The battlefield is all the countries in the region that are now on the brink of collapse, economic collapse, political collapse. In Bahrain, for example, it's possible that the popular uprising overthrow, the American-backed government over there, the Israeli-backed government, actually, right? And that would be the case for other countries, for the Saudi Arabia, for Kuwait, for Qatar, if the population starts to feel really the economic pressure, political, security, and everything is in shambles, we can be sure that we are going to have this time not Arab Spring movement, but Arab Winter movement, right? And very dark, very gloomy, very murky over there. And all of this because the United States has been in hostage, taken into hostage by Israelis for the Epstein file, let's say, right? It's impossible to keep going with that. So you wanted to have a short-term excursion, and now you have a long-term war. And you have not even prepared for paying the cost of this short-term excursion. Imagine that now you have to pay the huge price of a long-term war. Because think about that. The Iranian government makes a very basic calculation. And it said that we have already lost, let's say, 80-90% of the possibility of reconstruction, right? Because there is a huge destruction over there. The damages are in terms of dozens of billions of dollars, and they don't have any money, and they cannot sell any oil for now. The market is not such. There is sanctions, and nobody wants the Iranian oil, for example. And if Iran wants to sell it just to China or I don't know in the black market, it will get something between $5 to $25 billion per year. And we are talking about the damages of several hundreds of billion of dollars, right? So where Iran has to get this money for the coming 50, 100, 200 years with 20, $25 billion of the oil income per year, and a completely devastated country, army, and anything. So that's why the Iranians don't have anything to lose by continuing this war in such a way that at a given moment, when it's a matter of, negotiating, the Iranians can effectively ask for paying back for the damages. So we are talking about something like several hundreds of billions, $1 trillion that must be paid by the Americans, by Israelis, I don't know by who, to the Iranians for causing all these damages. We are there, we are at the beginning of such a process, extremely complex process that can, of course, be degraded, be worsened towards something extremely bad, boots on the ground, and at the end of the day, maybe the necessity or the unavoidability of the option of nuke Iran, right? It's totally possible. It's totally possible. That's why in every talk show, I am coming on this topic because it's extremely important, because it's essential. And I told you, if because of the total impasse, total deadlock of the United States and Israel, they decide to nuke Iran, to bomb Iran with the atomic bomb, we can be sure that we will be at the beginning of the end of the human presence, human species life on Earth. For sure, any attempt to nuke Iran will bring about the Third World War. And we are talking about an atomic military conflict that will put an end to any kind of life on Earth. So that's why you see in each of this presentation I try to look at the issue, to look at this war from a different angle, military, political, economic, technical, and so on. But at the end of the day, all the ways lead to Rome, and we are there, right? We are where there is a huge possibility for uh, for having effectively this huge attempt, this huge eagerness of Israelis, and pushing the United States toward the use of the atomic bomb to nuke Iran, to destroy completely, and to trigger effectively the Third World War, which will fit completely to the idea of Armageddon by the Zionists. Because the atomic war means the end of the world, right? And the end of the world, the Armageddon, is what the Jews, these Jews, are waiting for in order to be saved by who? Oh, by God. Sorry, I forget. By God. God itself, not anyone. So itself, it comes on earth and bring its selected people, its chosen people somewhere, we don't know exactly where. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please share your views and comments on YouTube. And I hope that you can help me to share these videos with other people so that we can have more audience, and in this way we can have maybe more people thinking about this issue from a different angle. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good day and night. Bye-bye.